Good afternoon, all of you. I welcome you all to Ansarkari. So today we are going to discuss the newspaper for 31st of December, and we'll be taking up The Hindu and the Financial Express. So the first important article is regarding the core sector's output, and we are seeing it sees a rise of 5.4%, but with uneven recovery. So before moving ahead, before looking at the trend and understanding it, it is important for you to know what are the components of the core sector. So it includes 8 sectors basically, that are coal, crude oil, natural gas, refinery products, fertilizers, steel, cement, and electricity. And you should be knowing about this. This can definitely come up in PT. And looking at their share in the index of industrial production, so the 8 core industries, they comprise a share of 40%, and you should you should remember that it is below 50%. So the exact share is 40%. Looking at the trend, so we see that the overall production levels in the November, they remain the same as in the previous month, and some sectors they saw growth and some did not. So cement, coal, steel, electricity output, they surged, but looking at the petroleum refinery products, they hit a 21-month low. And looking at the graph, so during November 2021, the growth rate was 3.2%, and this year in November, it was at 5.4%. So looking at the yearly basis trend, so it is on a rise, but again, okay, this same thing has been highlighted over here, and the recovery is not broad based yet. So it is uneven and it is not broad based. Basically, it is not all the sectors are not a component of the recovery that we are witnessing. So that's why it is not broad based and it is uneven in nature. Then from this article, what is important for us is to know the condition on the basis of which a cold wave is declared. So in the plain areas, the IMD declares a cold wave when the minimum temperature slips below 4 degrees Celsius, or it is more than 4.5 degrees Celsius below the normal. So this is condition, and a cold day is announced when the minimum temperature is below 10 degrees Celsius and the subsequent maximum temperature drops at least 4.5% below the normal. So these are the conditions and you should be knowing. So find out the condition for the hilly regions. This is the condition for plain areas. Then you should be knowing that Mudumalai Tiger Reserve is there in the Nilgiri Mountains in the state of Tamil Nadu, and it also shares its border with the states of Karnataka and Kerala. Then Maha Bodi Temple, it is situated at the site where the Buddha is said to have attained enlightenment. So it is located there in Bihar, the Maha Bodi Temple. Then India prefers good ties, but not at the cost of security. This is what our Union Defense Minister has to say. And there's a popular saying of a former Prime Minister, Sir Atal Bihari Vajpayee, that you can change your friends, but you cannot change your neighbors. So that is there. And looking, basically, a study has been conducted for to identify the how or what are the tactics that butterflies adopt to escape from predators. So they bedazzle the predators and they are successful in escaping. So butterflies, they come to warn, fool, and escape the predators using the traits such as wing color patterns and even the flight behavior. So they can bring changes in them, and that's how they are able to escape their predators. So in this picture, you can see the wanderer butterfly, and can see the beautiful and symmetric pattern on the wings and the vibrant colors. Then coming to the editorial page, so firstly we'll be taking up this article which is emphasizing upon how was the year 2022 and what are the learnings and that we need to work upon for India as a whole. So we saw that year 2022 it can perhaps be best summarized by a quote by Vladimir Lenin. So the quote goes like, there are decades where nothing happens and there are weeks where decades happen. So that's how you can, in short and simple manner, you can say that's how the year of 2022 was. And the year began with ostensible vanquishing of the COVID-19 pandemic, with some relief, with some hopes that we are moving towards normalcy. But after 2 months, we saw Russia-Ukraine war, which again led to, we can say, disruption of things. And because of that, obviously there were retaliatory economic sanctions, and there was weaponization of trade dependencies, which triggered inflation, recession, and gas shortage in winter, so making lives miserable for millions. So, America, it is now championing the trade restrictions against its enemies, promoting trading blocs among its allies, and incentivizing domestic production through the large financial assistance. So now we are seeing that free trade, it is now becoming a faux trade, and we are witnessing glorification of economic nationalism. So India's explosive exports growth over the last 4 decades, it has helped create millions of jobs, bring in valuable foreign reserves, and support the domestic production and consumption. So as we've been like constantly emphasizing on this point on the role and the importance of export sector to India's growth. So for the past 4 decades, it was explosively growing, but now, given the global economic slowdown and estimations of coming recession, we see that there are a lot of challenges for the export growth. So then came up the military aggression of China against India, and China, it has managed to engineer a realignment of the world order through its several policies, which includes its debt diplomacy, its economic power, a common enemy doctrine, and the Chinese threat. It marks a fundamental reshaping of the global forces, given how basically it sends these ships in the Indo-Pacific region, and also it is increasing its presence in the Indian Ocean region also. So social harmony becomes a necessary condition for India's rise as an economic power. We can say it is a precondition to be a strong economic power, and if we accept that India's economic power holds the key to its internal security, then it follows that India's social harmony is the foundation of its edifice. And 2022 may go down in history as the year when the global equilibrium was disrupted. So that is also another way of putting out how the year 2022 was. And it is time to reimagine India's overall strategy and reevaluate our normative policy framework in this backdrop of an irrational world. We need a holistic, military, diplomatic, social, and economic strategy, and not to be afraid to challenge the conventional wisdom. So, there is an imminent need to modernize and augment our defense capabilities with state of the art weaponry. Then, established foreign policy doctrine of non alignment may now conflict with India's growing need for trade and market access in the new economic world order, and may need to be re envisioned. So, we talked about our defense forces. Now here we're talking about a foreign policy. So India needs a bolder geo-economic strategy to gain preferential access to unique technologies and capital from other nations in return for domestic market access. And India's economic roadmap will have to factor in the environmental concerns also. We need to move away from the monopolies model of private enterprises, carve a new inclusive labor market focused economic development path of production. So that is there. And looking at decentralization, so India's political governance model calls for greater decentralization and federalism, reforms to cater to widening divergence among states. So we need to focus upon strengthening cooperative federalism, cooperative and competitive federalism to be precise, and stronger institutions. They are necessary condition for greater decentralization, reforming public institutions with more powers, independence, autonomy, resources, and accountability is essential. And we have, in this backdrop, we have also discussed about the reforms in the Election Commission of India in the manner of basically how we are going to appoint the manner of appointment of the chief election commissioner and the election commissioners. So in a nutshell, the nation needs a new vision in the new world, but the foundation of this new vision is a harmonious and inclusive society that embraces India's unique plurality. So that was about it. And talking about the Indian pharma sector. So we see that December 2021 and December 2022, they could not have been more contrasting for India's pharmaceutical industry. So explaining the statement with the example, like it has been written in the context of that in December 2021, we came up with the COVID-19 vaccine. So it was a celebratory time. And the next year in December 2022, we see that the Indian drug manufacturing firms, they've been accused by two countries of producing toxic cough syrups, which led to death of children in Gambia and Uzbekistan. So you can see how things change and how contrasting they are. One year we were celebrating the basically the invention of the COVID-19 vaccine, and the next year the pharmaceutical industry has been blamed for producing toxic cough syrup. So India is known as the pharmacy of the world. And what has been the stand of the drugs controller general of India on the toxic cough syrup? So it says that when we took our when we look at the reports of the test of the control samples of these companies who produce these cough syrups, they show them to be free of the contaminants. And it is high time that India takes a serious look at the core issue of why the batches of the exported cough syrups, they have been found to be laced with banned chemicals rather than play the victim card. And while mistakes they happen, not taking corrective measures is what threatens India's image and undermines the trust in Indian pharmaceutical industry. So it becomes important that we take the corrective measures and steps so as to not erode the world's trust in Indian pharmaceutical industry. Then talking about again dependency of the cases. So our Chief Justice of India says that some pending cases, they even date back to 1970s, and over 63 lakh cases in the country, they are delayed due to non-availability of counsel. And he also stressed the importance of digitization and technology. So in this context here, we should be knowing about three types of bails. So the first is regular bail. So it is a direction given by the court to release a person who is already under arrest and he or she is kept in police custody. The next type is interim bail. So bail granted for a temporary and short period by the court till the application seeking anticipatory bail or a regular bail is pending before a court. So interim bail, we can say that it is a kind of a short-term bail. And then we have anticipatory bail. So it is a direction issued to release a person on bail even before the person is arrested. So basically, when a person anticipates that he or she may get arrested, so he asks for an anticipatory bail before they are arrested. So it is issued only by the Sessions Court and the High Court. So you should be remembering this. And India, Saudi Arabia, they discussed the treaty on mutual assistance for criminal investigations. So this is the mutual legal assistance treaty to obtain formal assistance from each other in investigations that are related to the criminal cases. So that will facilitate ease of, we can say, sharing things between the two countries. And India, it has so far signed the MLATs with 45 countries, and it is also in talks to finalize one with Italy and Germany. So it is a mechanism whereby the countries, they cooperate with one another in order to provide and obtain the formal assistance in prevention, suppression, investigation, and prosecution of crime to ensure that the criminals, they do not escape or sabotage the due process of law for want of evidence available in different countries. So that is there. Then a prime minister's mother dies, so our condolences are with him. But what is there for us to take away is that she once said to prime minister that work with intelligence and live life with purity. So we can take away this from here. Then Iran holds military drill near the strategic Strait of Hormuz. So from this news, what becomes important for us is to know the location of the Strait of Hormuz, of the Persian Gulf, of the Gulf of Oman, or whether they are similar or not. So that is there, and the strait is located at the mouth of the Persian Gulf, and it is crucial to global energy supplies. And before Russia attacked Ukraine, even Russia conducted some military drills. So often it is understood that military drills, we can say they are just we can say it's a trailer before announcing a war or attacking a country or any region. So we need to take this seriously, and the locations becomes important for our examination. Then coming to the business page, we see that bank credit to the services sector jumped 21% in November. So we are seeing that services exports are also performing well. And again, when we look about the credit demand and the needs being satisfied of the services sector, even that is witnessing growth. So the housing loans also increased and the auto loans also climbed up. So we see that the credit growth in agriculture, it quickened to 13.8% compared with 11% a year earlier. Growth in loans to industry also accelerated, and personal loan growth also surged to approximately 20% in November. So we are seeing that credit growth is increasing. So it points towards the fact that business activities, they are growing and things are moving towards normalcy. Talking about the fiscal deficit, so it touched a 59% of the full year target in November, and for the financial year 2023, so fiscal deficit is estimated to be around 6.4% of the GDP. Talking about the forex reserve, so they are seeing a dip for a second straight week, and we see that the gold reserves, they increased, the special drawing rights, they were also up. But looking at the what are the components of our foreign exchange reserves, so there are four components. First is the foreign currency assets, second is gold, third is a special drawing rights, and fourth is the reserve trunk position. So any change in any of these four components leads to changes in our forex reserve. So you can find out more about these components in detail and how the value changes. So looking at India's global financial assets, so they are seeing a decline, and the reserve assets, they remained the dominant component of India's international financial assets. So reserve assets are the dominant component, and we are seeing fall in India's foreign liabilities during the second quarter this financial year. And variation in the exchange rate of rupee vis-a-vis other currencies also impacted the change in liabilities when valued in terms of US dollars. So here you should be knowing what are the factors which impacts them, and debt and non-debt liabilities, they continued to have an equal share in the total external liabilities. So debt and non-debt liabilities, they almost have equal share in the total external liabilities. So let's take up the Financial Express now. So in Financial Express, looking at tea production in 2022, it is seen around the last year's level. So from this article, it is important for us to know about the details of the Tea Board of India. So it is a statutory body under the Ministry of Commerce, and it is reconstituted every 3 years. Its headquarters is located in Kolkata, and it has 17 other offices across India. And also it has two overseas offices located in Dubai and Moscow. And talking about its members, so it has 31 members, including the chairman, which are drawn from members of parliament, tea producers, tea traders, tea brokers, the consumers, and representatives of governments from the principal tea producing states and trade unions. So that is the important detail for us to know. Then from the editorial page, again, we have discussed about this topic, and this is again, I would emphasize that it is one of the most important topics, which is about the changes, the structural changes in the Indian economy. And we discussed all the trends and the changes that occurred in India post independence. So again, this article is on similar lines, but here we just need to understand that from the policy standpoint, we need to focus on an agenda to create more productive jobs out of agriculture, especially in the labor-intensive manufacturing sector, it should be the topmost priority as the growing number of people living off the land has adverse distributional outcomes. So firstly, you should know that because of COVID-19 pandemic, all the benefits that we saw, all the major structural changes that the Indian economy witnessed out towards, basically the major structural change was that the labor surplus moved out from the agricultural sector towards the industries and the services sector. But because of COVID-19 pandemic, we saw reverse migration in huge numbers and people again depending more upon the agricultural sector. So now again, obviously the things are again back to the square one. We stand at the same position. So we want to ensure that people they start moving out of the agriculture, because again it has its own adverse impacts for the economy and also for the agricultural sector. So we need to ensure on creating more jobs out of the agricultural sector, specifically in the labor intensive manufacturing sector, and that needs to be our topmost priority because again it has adverse distributional outcomes. So the sector is passing through a crisis at the average size of land holdings. It will further get fragmented over time due to the pressure of population that is increased in the agricultural sector. Then farming at the margin, that is getting more unviable, that is getting more economically unviable because more and more people are depending upon it. So the marginal productivity will decline. And if fewer jobs are created outside agriculture, so more will be forced to stay in this sector. More people would not wish to come out of agriculture and move towards the urban areas if more job opportunities are not there. So increasing the pressure on land, the people, and they will lower the farmer incomes. So social strains, they are bound to intensify if the process of structural transformation does not get underway again. So again, we wish to have that structural transformation of the economy in order to become a developed country. So we need these steps, and we've talked about what can be the adverse impacts if people they do not move out of agriculture sector. Then Utkarsh 2.0, it sets out the strategies and milestones under 6 visions which will guide the banks along this roadmap to achieve its goal. So you should be knowing what is Utkarsh 2.0. Then I guess that's it for today. Thank you for joining Ansarkari, and you'll be getting the PDF link in the description box. So do not forget to subscribe to this channel because we are uploading the newspaper analysis videos every day. And thank you so much for joining. See you soon tomorrow.